Anything great takes time.
Mrs. Rolla started out as a tour guide. She couldn't find any history of blacks and their contributions.
All it takes is a stroke of genius.
She is the face behind a national movement.
She is just a ball of joy, and you see she is ready to kick this thing off for an idea decades in the making.
Ms. Opal, you're incredible. Grandmother of the movement to make Juneteenth a federal holiday.
To be curated into something beautiful.
We checked to make sure there wasn't another National Juneteenth Museum, and there wasn't. And so we said, well, we'll have a National Juneteenth Museum.
A meeting of the minds.
I was having a conversation with Miss Opal Lee in her dining room, and we were talking about our vision.
To create a blueprint for something far beyond the imagination.
These are the boundaries of the museum.
Something like this hasn't happened in a long time.
A few rough drafts before the final sketch.
How did she react to the design?
Excitement, fist pumping in the air.
Allow us to be your tour guides for what's to come.
Walking into the state-of-the-art building, what do you want people to see? How do you want them to feel?
So what happens when you take an empty lot and turn it into a masterpiece? You get a long-lasting legacy.
People are gonna take notice.
Absolutely.
Oh, I'm looking forward to it.
On this Juneteenth, we celebrate the history, education, and most importantly, the legacy carried on right here in North Texas. I'm Tashara Parker. Thank you so much for joining us. Right now, the oral stories and artifacts of Juneteenth are scattered throughout the United States. But 2 years from today, the National Juneteenth Museum will open an entire building dedicated to housing the history of this day and how this day came to be. And that is what we're dedicating this next 30 minutes to. Think of us as your tour guides to a behind-the-scenes look at all the work it takes to lay the foundation and get this museum built brick by brick. Throughout this special, you'll hear from the visionaries responsible with bringing the museum to life, the business owners and community members who will benefit from having this resource on Fort Worth's historic Southside. And of course, we cannot talk about June 19th without bringing in the grandmother of Juneteenth herself, Miss Opal Lee. We'll also walk you through the details, the thoughtful design of this museum when we talk to the architect responsible for making Miss Opal's dream a reality. But we can't start this thing out without breaking down how this federal holiday came to be. While today is full of celebration, it was not an easy road to get here.
Juneteenth marks the end of slavery in the United States. After 4 bloody years, the Union defeated the Confederacy to win the Civil War and abolish slavery. In April 1865, Union armies began marching through the South, freeing enslaved people by the thousands. On June 19, 1865, 2.5 years after the Emancipation Proclamation was signed, Major General Gordon Granger arrived in Galveston, Texas, all with the message of freedom. It was there he read General Order Number 3. The people of Texas are informed that in accordance with the proclamation from the Executive of the United States, all slaves are free. This involves an absolute equality of personal rights and rights of property between former masters and slaves. Granger's words spread through Texas. The news of freedom led to joyous, spontaneous celebrations of the newly freed, with the first official Juneteenth celebration happening 1 year later on June 19th.
And now here we are, generations later, and there are entire groups who have dedicated their time and energy to making sure this history is not lost. Now, y'all know we can't talk about the National Juneteenth Museum without getting into the actual building. Let's start off with the price tag. Museum founders are looking at a $70 million fundraising goal, which they are well on their way to reaching. And as for the location, just like everything else, it's all intentional, including the block of land that it sits on, the corner of Rosedale Street and Evans Avenue in Fort Worth. Scoop Jefferson takes us there and introduces us to a man with one of the biggest jobs, designing this beautiful building.
It's right here at the intersection, so it's going to capture the corner and it's going to capture the imagination.
An empty field on Evans and Rosedale.
So this is going to be an open courtyard.
A field of dreams.
What we're looking to see is we look out over the the intersection, what I'm looking to see is an activated area.
Undergoing an amazing transformation.
And I was like, I've got to be part of this.
Darren James gets to imagine what this corner will be.
I'm president of KAI Enterprises. This is the front yard. This is the front yard.
Okay. His architect engineering company already has his name on million-dollar projects.
We pick some of the most culturally conscious, politically sensitive projects. Hey, John, how you doing?
Now it's designing the National Juneteenth Museum.
This is a legacy project. It feels incredible. I'm a history buff. The museum is on that side.
A once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to work with a woman considered one in a million.
Get to know
The grandmother of Juneteenth.
I was having a conversation with Miss Opal Lee in her dining room, and we were talking about our vision.
1 year ago, I sat down with Miss Opal and her granddaughter, Deion Sims.
Scoop. Wait till I tell the girls I met Scoop.
To talk about her land in Fort Worth's historic Southside. Miss Opal has owned it since 1990.
Folks have tried to buy it from her, and she's like, no.
Since then, demolition, clearing the field, and a bidding process to choose a company that shares Miss Opal's passion for community.
We do education, libraries, community centers, hospitals, rec centers.
Darren designed the new South Oak Cliff High School and the South Dallas County Government Center.
How you guys doing?
But for this project,
I got people in our office that have signed up like, hey, I want to work on that project. So it's in the O drive.
the renderings of the $70 million design capture Miss Opal's vision.
There we go. This is going to be a landscape park, and it opens up onto the city of Fort Worth.
A courtyard with a 5-point star engraved in gold.
Showing what it would look like at night, where it's illuminated.
A sign of freedom finally in the Lone Star State.
And this is if you're standing across Rosedale looking back across the street.
The museum located on the second level, a restaurant, and storefronts on the lower level.
At night, it's gonna be lit up?
Yes, it's gonna be spectacular.
Materials for the two-story building will be carefully sourced from countries that guarantee no slave labor.
What will stand out most about the National Juneteenth Museum?
That it's emotive of the flag, the 5-pointed star. There's also going to be a community center, incubator space for entrepreneurs, as well as a food hall for people to come and get healthy food options with local chefs.
Darren also showed us where a 250-seat outside amphitheater will be.
And it's going to start right about where that power pole is. We get to be part of history. It looks back, but it also looks forward and opens doors and pathways. It's going to be a destination.
A destination and global attraction in Fort Worth.
How does that feel?
It's an amazing feeling to see that you have something that's going to be in a space that's hopefully going to outlive your lifetime.
It started as a field of dreams.
And it's going to be a world-class facility.
Now, a once-in-a-lifetime project.
It's going to stand on the same merits of everything else that's in Fort Worth's genre of cultural destination spots.
In Fort Worth, I'm Scoop Jefferson.
KAI Enterprises is working hand in hand with Bjarke Ingel's group on the museum's design.
Everybody should be aware that Juneteenth is about freedom. And we're not just talking about people in Texas or black people. We're talking about freedom for everyone.
Whether she's at the White House watching President Biden declare Juneteenth a federal holiday or leading her march through the triple-digit heat of North Texas, that is one of the principles Ms. Opal Lee stands firm on, and she will tell anyone willing to listen. It is the motto she's also using when delivering her vision to the group of execs on this museum. And while she is affectionately known as the grandmother of Juneteenth, Ms. Opal tells me there's no way she could ever hammer out this concept on her own.
What we're wanting to do is to highlight all of the folks that took a part in making emancipation for the enslaved a priority. So that does include having exhibits and telling the stories of the Quakers and the abolitionists, the humanity factor that said we've got to help get people out of slavery.
Deion Sims is the founding executive director of the National Juneteenth Museum. She also holds a more treasured title.
My granddear provided land.
The granddaughter of the grandmother of Juneteenth, Miss Opal Lee.
The challenges weren't many. Okay. Because there was a good vision.
A vision that started in the 90s when Miss Opal inherited land on the south side of Fort Worth.
I was married to a young man, and he was a young man when he passed away. That land was in his family. And it passed on down to me as a wife, I guess. And now it's going to be used for everybody.
Organizers hope the museum will attract visitors from around the world.
We felt like if we had this National Juneteenth Museum and that all of the 50 states had something in the museum, that people would gravitate to it and they learn from it.
It's going to be a place for conversation. It's going to be a place for giving people resources for their future.
Those resources to bring the original vision of the museum to life rest on the shoulders of CEO Jared Howard and museum strategist Dr. Lauren Cross.
It's a big responsibility. You know, I'm thinking about more than just myself. I'm thinking about the experiences of others, wanting them to walk away educated, number one, but wanting them to walk away empowered and to feel that they really gain something from the experience.
From the stories they tell to the artifacts they acquire, they hope people from across the country will dig deep in their own homes to find the items that will help tell the National Juneteenth story.
I'd rather someone pitch an idea than to be like, well, I don't know if this is what they want. Whether it's a garment, whether it's a letter or a picture, any kind of artifact that you have.
There's going to be an area specifically dedicated to you and your work.
Okay.
How many of your items are you donating?
They can have everything I've got.
Okay.
I'm not sure they'd want it.
Will people get to see that iconic pen that President Biden gifted to you? Will that be in the museum?
Yes.
Oh.
The pen that he used to sign Juneteenth into a federal law.
What excites you most about the museum?
It's in our neighborhood. It's going to revitalize that neighborhood.
It's not just about coming and seeing something on the wall, but bringing the stories of the enslaved from the past, where we are in the present, and taking it to the future, modern liberation.
Girl, it's gonna revolutionize the Southside and Fort Worth all over because it's going to be fabulous.
It is going to be fabulous, you know it, and a gem for the historic South Side, wedged between 35W and Highway 287. So much change is happening in the area, but to know where we are going, it's important to know where we came from. Let's start with the fact that they don't call it historic for no reason. Rewind 100 years and you'd find yourself at the epicenter for thriving businesses, culture, and education, all geared toward thousands of African Americans. As Damon Fernandez shows us, it's not because they had a choice.
In Fort Worth's historic Southside neighborhood, you'll find a two-story greenhouse at the corner of East Humboldt and Illinois.
This is in the heart of the neighborhood.
It's a house preserving the history of one of the city's oldest African American neighborhoods and plenty of the settlers and pioneers who called this community home.
Scott Hooper was born a slave. She lived in Riverside.
Brenda Sanders Wise is executive director of the Tarrant County Black Historical and Genealogical Society, and she's curator of the Lenora Rolla Heritage Center Museum.
Mrs. Rolla started out as a tour guide, a docent at the Fort Worth Museum of Science and History. She couldn't find any history of blacks and their contributions, not much anyway.
Blacks began migrating to Fort Worth's Southside area around 1910. Over years, it became home to some of the city's most prominent lawyers and medical professionals.
We have your first black surgeon in Fort Worth. We have doctors.
Southside was also home to a host of business leaders, Pullman porters, and educators.
But in the heart of this community and in this city was a school called I M. Terrell High School, the only school for blacks.
Sanders Wise believes the Lenora Rolla Heritage Center Museum will complement the National Juneteenth Museum that's expected to open just a few blocks away.
Something like this hasn't happened in a long time, and we need it.
Like many underserved urban communities, Fort Worth's Southside area is changing. Older homes are being replaced by new development, and new neighbors are coming in.
It's a great community.
And the staff at this museum wants this area's history to be remembered.
We want people to know that we do exist, and we will continue to tell the story.
In Fort Worth, I'm Damon Fernandez.
Right now, a massive renovation is in the works for the historic Southside, and here's part of the reason why. The zip code 76104 is labeled the lowest life expectancy in the entire state by UT Southwestern. Along with the Southside, most people in the hospital district, Hillside and Morningside, they don't make it past their 67th birthday. This is the same area is also extremely high for infant mortality. An urban village plan worth millions of dollars was approved to revitalize the neighborhood. In the latest renderings, the largest building is a hotel and apartment complex between South Freeway and Missouri Avenue. Other buildings include an incubator made of shipping containers for small businesses along Evans Avenue.
I'm hoping will benefit the people who are already here. And I'm glad to see the changes and things like that. But we are somebody that's stationed here that represents the community and at the same time represents what the community is going to be.
We're just excited to be part of that change, to lock arms with other small Black businesses and say, hey, we're here and we're ready to make an impact.
Yeah.
Those are the owners of Hustle Blends, currently located inside of one of those shipping containers. They've been in the area for 1 year and are located less than 400 feet from the museum site. They are excited for the new customers that will cross their threshold once the National Juneteenth Museum opens. Our tour is not over yet. Still ahead, we hear from the man who got the 3rd degree from Miss Opal before stepping in as CEO.
My granddaddy asked him, so what do you do? Okay. What's on your heart? And he shared with her a desire for a black hole, W-H-O-L-E.
Jared Howard is another extension of this operation, how he helped birth this entire idea. And we told you the fundraising goal is a lofty one. So who helped the museum get over halfway to its target? You'll hear from some donors. Welcome back to Legacy Lives Here, our Juneteenth special. The man with the plan is usually the one that also has to secure funds for the big idea. In the case of the National Juneteenth Museum, that's CEO Jared Howard. I sat down with him to figure out how he's getting it all done. All right, you're the newly appointed CEO. I want you to walk us through that role and what that looks like for you.
You know, Tashara, it really is as simple as raising the funds. That's the primary charge. And establishing the infrastructure that we need to be successful in the long term, right? So that's essentially what it entails today, right? You don't build a museum unless you got money, right? You don't have money unless you raise funds. So that's what they asked me to do.
Now, look, people may not know, you don't really like this whole being in front of the camera thing, but you have already been working behind the scenes for years on this project. Where did the drive come from for you to be tied to this museum?
Yeah, so I'll tell you that the project is bigger than the museum. The museum is the anchor of the project, but the scope of what we're doing is significantly larger, and that scope was the catalyst to my presence. So being a Fort Worthian, and going to UNT, I discovered that people didn't think as highly of Fort Worth as I did.
Give us a timeline on when we can expect to see this theater and the museum and folks could actually step foot inside the Juneteenth Museum.
Yep, I've got a soon-to-be 97-year-old woman that's poking me in the back every day. And she says, Jared, get it done. And her language is a little bit more colorful than that, right? No one would believe me, so I don't know if you want to edit this out of this, but
I believe you.
Miss Opal can be pretty demanding, and generally nobody tells her no. And so she wants to see it open June 19th, 2025, and so we're working feverishly to make sure that that happens for her.
Okay. You know, seeing that this museum is, supposed to draw a national crowd, not supposed to, will draw a national crowd. The Black businesses inside the museum, you mentioned vendors, foodpreneurs. Is that something that's going to stay the same over the course of the time that the museum is there, or will that change? How does that work?
You're pretty good at this, Ms. Parker.
Yeah,
so,
I've been doing it a little while.
the whole model of the business center is incubation, right? So as a consequence, in an ideal sense, those that are there when we open will only be there 2 or 3 years. They'll be there long enough to hone their craft, to build their brand, and the idea is that they will build a strong enough brand to go and open their own location outside of the museum thereby opening up the slot for the next foodpreneur that needs to come in. And the same is true in the incubation space, the co-working space. It's not meant to be a permanent home of anything other than the museum. So.
And how are y'all planning to pick those businesses? I know you kind of just laid out some of the foundational principles that you're looking for, but is it just going to be local? Are you guys going to allow those applications to come from external of Fort Worth? How does that look?
Yeah, so initially it'll be all Fort Worth, and that's by design, because remember, this is the neighborhood that's been despondent and dilapidated for the last 30 years. So they're the ones that need the infusion of capital. They're the ones that need the resources. And so we're going to make sure that at least initially, the people that are there and the stewards of that community get the first opportunity.
Are there any other surprises that you guys are working on when it comes to the museum that you can share with our audience? Y'all know we like a little breaking news around here. So any other surprises you have?
Ms. Parker asked all the hard questions. So yes, there are surprises. As you know, we just had the incredible Brian Stevenson here for our inaugural Speaker Series event. And we've got some pretty big names, and I'll tell you this, national office, presidential office. How about that? Is that enough?
Oh, hello. Come on, presidential. We're all for it. Well, that was one surprise, but I do need you to stand up because I have my own surprise for you. So if you can just stand up with me, if my surprise can go ahead and join me out here, because I want to make sure that we can reveal this to you. Come on, our producer. We do have a $2,000 check that we want to present to the national. Those surprises. Okay, I like these surprises. And I like giving away money that ain't my own. Check from the WFAA and Tegna Foundation for $2,000. Presented to the National Juneteenth Museum. And we, again, appreciate all the work that you guys are doing and whatever we can do to support you along the way to bring this thing to life. Like Ms. Opal said, June 2025, we're going to do what we can. So thank you so much for your hard work.
Thank you, Tashara. Thank you. Thank you, and WFAA.
Absolutely. The National Juneteenth Museum is a 501c3 nonprofit organization, so no donation is too small, okay? Scan this QR code on your screen and it'll take you right to ways to give. We all know projects this size also require a sizable amount of support to bring them to life. And the National Juneteenth Museum just announced a big name will be backing their efforts. Meta, you've heard of them, and the city of Fort Worth will help fund the new museum and community complex slated to open in Fort Worth's historic Southside in 2025.
We are committed to being a good partner here to our local nonprofits, our schools, and our small businesses. And for several years, we have been working towards raising awareness about the Juneteenth holiday and what that means.
It will, to your question, have a huge economic impact, positive impact for the city of Fort Worth.
Meta is sponsoring the creation of a 3D virtual video tour of the campus, which will launch in a few months. A final thought as we close our special presentation. Ms. Opal, in our interview, you said people are going to forget your name, that they won't remember you. Listen, there are countless people across Fort Worth and around the world that won't ever let that happen, including all of us here at WFAA. Thank you for your continued efforts, your drive, and your spirit. May we all find what matters to each of us, the right to freedom in every corner of the world, and fight like hell until change happens.